So welcome to today's YouTube. We have Charlotte here. So Charlotte, do you want to give a little bit of a background into you first and foremost?
Yeah. So about 5 years ago, I started a support group for people with chronic illness who want to keep fit, called the Chronically Fit Group. And that's where Rosie and I met through that online group, support group.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago. So
we're those 5 years
back.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the differences between fitness and training and like how training's helped us, but then also the differences. Of course, I'm a bodybuilder as well.
I am not.
You could be if you wanted to be.
Oh, I think I'm all right. I don't think I've got the effort.
So we're going to talk about some of the differences in our training and kind of what it takes versus being like functional versus pushing limits and pushing yourself really outside your comfort zone. So do you want to head off?
Yeah, I think to be fair, I'm so curious about how much, I know a lot of work goes in to what you do. Where I am with fitness is like my original goals were to be able to dry my own hair independently and do the housework. Like that was it for my goals. That's what I wanted to do. I went to a private physio and they told me about like which areas of the body I needed to hit first. I really struggled with my hips. They were really painful, and obviously struggled putting my hand above my head. So that was like the two main areas I worked on were my back and my hips, which to be fair, like once you roll it into one, it just ends up being like your whole body.
And Charlotte has EDS.
Oh yeah, just
to give a bit of background there.
So hypermobile EDS and vitamin B12 deficiency, but that doesn't really play too much into fitness, other than it's great to have pre-workout because it makes me feel great, because it's normally packed full of B12. Other than that though, fitness has always been functional. I just managed to get into a routine and keep it up, and I definitely feel the symptoms come back in the way of like fatigue and joint pain if I fall out of my fitness routine. But I never go in to completely like push the limits of what my body can do, which is I guess where you head into.
So how many times a week would you say that you train? And how many times, like when you started versus now as well?
When I started, I probably trained like 3 times a week. I will try and do some form of exercise. Bear in mind, I go into the gym and I can spend 20 minutes in the gym, or sometimes I'll spend like an hour or so in the gym, depending on how I feel. It's very dependent on the way my body is reacting, and I just tune into that and then train according to that. But I say this with when I used to, in my previous employment, I used to get up and go to the gym at 6 o'clock every morning, even if I was away with work, and people would be like, oh, why are you and I knew that if I was away with work and I fell out of that routine, I wouldn't get back into it as soon as I got home. So for me, it's more keeping the routine. Doesn't matter how long I'm there for, as long as I'm focusing on the areas I need to focus on. And if I'm having a weaker day and I decide to cut that session short, then I won't go in the next day and do exactly the same like exercises. I'll just make sure that the next time I do it, I'll be there for a bit longer. So it's definitely less on a, right, I'm going to focus on doing like 4 days a week of fitness and I'm going to smash out every single workout. I'm going to be there for a period of time. It's, okay, how does my body feel today? Right, I did legs a couple of days ago. I can do them again because my body's recovered from it, and I work on it in that way, which I think sometimes people ask, they do ask quite a lot, like, what program do you follow or things like that. I'm like, myself. Like, I focus on the program of understanding how I feel, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it is different for everyone. It's so important to tune in to how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And that's something, even of course, like my clients work from a program, but some days they do the full training volume, other days they won't. Sometimes they take an extra rest day. You know, it's not like you have to train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever it may be, and do this program, this session, this program every single week. Doesn't matter how you feel. Like, that's not how it works, and you end up working against your body in those situations. And I've pushed it, and of course, like with my extreme goals of bodybuilding, I do have to play kind of a little bit more towards the sign that I do kind of need to get the sessions done. And that's kind of, I can't, if I just missed every session that I didn't feel good, or I pulled back so much every session that I didn't feel good, I wouldn't make the progress that I needed to succeed in my competitive goals. So for me, I do have to dance a little bit more on the take the risk. But again, I've built up, that has come from years of foundations. That's not something that I've just started doing. I haven't just like started training off the back of a POTS diagnosis and be like, right, I'm going to be a competitive bodybuilder. Like, that's not how that's worked at all. It's been years and years of training before that. And then it was like, actually, I really enjoy this. I want to see how far I can take it. And then that's kind of when I started pushing more and more. And I've always I love challenging myself. Like, I was always so sporty in school. I was always very competitive. So I think like it just feeds into that. Like, I like that drive. I like that competitiveness against myself. Like, trying to be the strongest version of myself, trying to feel my best, look my best, like challenge new limits, push myself to the places where I was like, I don't actually know if I can get through this, hence a contest prep. It is like as far as you really can push yourself physique wise, but also mentally. And I think a lot of people really underestimate like the physique side of it is one aspect, like pushing yourself from a physique perspective. That is one aspect of a contest prep. But if anything, I think the mental aspect is probably the hardest by a long way in many ways, because it's that having to push on and show up for yourself in spite of your body absolutely screaming at you to literally just stay in bed.
Do you know what I was just thinking as you were saying that, is that there are going to be people that start on a fitness journey that will probably feel very similar to how you feel when you're like, whether you're in prep or whatever, because they are going to be fighting against their body. You have to do that at the beginning. You have to learn what works for you, learn what doesn't, and also push those boundaries to a certain extent. Until you get to a point where actually, no, I know who I am. I know where I'm at with it, and I know what's safe and what's good for me. But also, you end up enjoying it. You do end up enjoying it. I feel really weird if I don't go to the gym. I'm like, well, something's missing. What have I done? Forgot my keys?
And that's the thing, like, if you're not in those early phases, you have to push yourself outside your comfort zone. Whether that's just that little bit more movement, just starting up with a little bit more steps, a little bit more training, just starting to push new weights. If you're trying to make progress towards building muscle to support your health or whatever it may be, that isn't going to be comfortable, because if you stay in your comfort zone, your body's given literally no reason to grow. You're just being like, yeah, it's okay, you're fine the way it is. And no, you're not fine the way that it is. So you do have to push yourself, and bodybuilding just takes that mentality to an absolute extreme. And I think in many ways that's kind of why I thrived in bodybuilding, because I already had that mentality of that chronic illness. So I was like, well, in many ways I'm very extreme, and a lot of people would be like, I would never recommend it to anyone with a chronic illness because it is an absolutely terrible idea. But with my years of experience, because I've done it over and over again, and I know what is expected, I know what it takes, and I'm willing to push that limit. It's years of research. Like, it's not just something that I've just gone into blindly, because I think that's sort of what a lot of people do with bodybuilding as it is, where like it just across really across social media now, you see so many people just like, right, I'm enjoying the gym, I'm going to step on stage. Like, if you actually want to be successful, it takes so much more than that. And it puts your health at risk. It does, like, there are so many hormonal issues that can come from it. Like, I know, like, a lot of my hormones, which will have my bloods done like previously, like, they had all plummeted after my contest prep, and I come off hormonal contraception and stuff as well, and I don't know if that had played a role, or there are so many factors that play that, but like, it can have a huge impact on your health, on your life, and you actually need to, if you're planning on doing it long term, you really have to take all of that into consideration.
And I think especially if you have a chronic illness, how have you found it affects your chronic illness? Like, how have you found that it's really affected you?
I think for me, the hardest part is pushing food with my digestive system. And when I've had like terrible, I remember it was 2020 it was 2022. So I first competed 2018, but I didn't do a proper prep, long story. Properly did, like, then just really pushed all the bodybuilding, muscle growth, and everything, 2018, 2019, 2020, end of 2020, stepped on stage for the first time.
Yeah.
Now it's 2024. Like, I've committed this huge time to like pushing food, pulling back, pushing food, pulling back. So you got to think as well, it's like 4 years of hard work between my last show and this show. But for me, it is probably the pushing food. And I had in 2022, I had a lot more tests done on my digestive system because something just really wasn't feeling right. Like, my training was feeling awful because every time I tried to just go and do any movement, like the pressure on my stomach, and I think with the amount of food I was eating, but also just I've got a collapsed bowel. A lot of, because of the blockage in my bowel, like a lot of course, my gut microbiome's off. Like, it affects my entire digestive system, which affects the whole body. And I think, again, there's so little research that we know about the gut at this point, but we know there's a huge link between it and mental health and everything. And that year in particular, it really got me down because I was like, I can barely train. I can't push myself the way that I want to push myself. And I found that so frustrating for someone who likes to push the limits. I want to be able to go into the gym and absolutely kill myself off because I love that. I thrive on that. Like, I go in there, I will spend 2 hours feeling absolutely awful. And it's like, I come out there feeling the best I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And that's what I thrive on. The fact that I couldn't do that, I was just going through the motions and I kept showing up for myself. But it was then I found out that my bowel had recollapsed that year. And it was a lot worse than it was originally when I found out. I think it was originally in 2019. I had surgery in end of 2019, and that had fixed it. But all of the surgery had come undone, and it was a lot worse than it was before. Like, and that's why it was so bad. Like, that mental struggle during that time when I had these goals of bodybuilding that I've been working towards. I was like, am I actually going to have to give all of this up? Am I still going to be able to train in the way that I want to train? Or do I have to actually look at making things just more functional and stop pushing limits?
What have you done this time?
So I was very, very cautious of food choices. I think I just had to, I've always been like a big cook. I've always loved making food. So I've had to really, really nail down from that perspective. I've worked with a number of different people, and that's something as well, like in the fitness industry, there are some incredible people who know so much about like gut health and things like that, who I've met through bodybuilding, ironically, who have actually really helped and supported me through particular supplements. And like those supplements, I would not function if, like, my digestive system would not function if I wasn't on them. And I mean, the doctors were trying to put me on basically like long-term antibiotics. And I was like, I refuse to do that. Like, they'd already hammered me with antibiotics all growing up for my bladder and this and that. And I was like, I'm not doing that anymore, because with the blockage, of course, there's going to be a buildup of bacteria, so SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So on lots of different supplements that manage that, it's never going to be cured because I'm always going to have the blockage. So it's a bit of a battle with that. But then I think the biggest thing for me was managing my mindset around it as well, because it really got me down during that period. And I think I almost just stopped believing in myself. I stopped. I was just constantly beating myself up. I was just very frustrated. I was very negative. I had a very pessimistic outlook on things. Yeah. And nothing else had really changed apart from just being like, right, this is what I want to do. I've got to accept that this is going to be the consequences. I am making this harder for myself. Yeah. My health's never, like, my digestive system's never going to be brilliant, but yes, I am pushing it to the limit. Yeah. And I need to recognize that is a choice that I am making myself. I can't blame anyone else. I can't blame even my body on that one. Like, that is a choice that I am doing it to knowingly make. Yeah, I am doing that to myself. So I can either keep on trying or I just have to call it a day. And I decided to keep on trying, and my training just started getting better. I stopped tracking my lifts. I stopped putting the same pressure going into my sessions. And I was just like, I'm just going to go in and do what I can on any given day. And just really having to take myself out of that, like, right, I have to progress this, I have to progress that every single session. And that genuinely just made such a big difference. I haven't picked up a logbook or tracked my lifts in such a long time now, because for me, there were so many fluctuations, especially of how bad my digestive system gets around my period, for example. Like a lot of people struggle around that period. My digestive system, when it was already like at this high level, it's a whole other level of bad. Like, there is no hope in hell sometimes. Some months it's okay. So it's just like recognizing that, I think, as well. And if anything, like, for me, prep, being on less food,
Yeah.
but I can cope with that. Like, that's fine. Do you feel great towards the end? Absolutely not. It's absolutely horrible. And I'm like excited and dreading how I'm going to feel in so many ways as well towards the back end of the prep. But it's leaning into that challenge and leaning into the difficultness.
It sounds like you've got a way better outlook now than you did those years ago. I remember you doing that competition. I remember you being like, oh, afterwards as well, like the crash you had afterwards, like insane.
Exactly.
But you seem so much more like headstrong within that. You know what you're going into. Yeah. I think it makes a massive difference.
Exactly. And I think like for my contest prep and post show, like I'd actually, textbook wise, I absolutely nailed it. Like did not slip up once. Did not, like my post show again, like my rebound off the back, like gained body fat and everything. Like I absolutely nailed the whole process. And I had a brilliant coach that I was working with at the time, who really helped me with the mindset through it. But I think, again, like at the same time as well, I was really starting to push my business, and I was almost like, I was going through this huge growth period in my life and really just growing up as a person during that period of time as well, which I think just, that was almost the biggest stress for me, on top of the actual prep. So I think now just, I've done a lot of work over the past number of years on my mindset towards everything, because it is a choice at the end of the day. Like, it's the same with food and stuff. Yeah. People always say like, but that I'm dieting. For reference, it's now like 11th of May. I've been dieting for almost 5 weeks, and I'm going to be dieting till mid-October. Yeah. Like, and I'm not going to have a single drop of anything outside what I'm told to eat. And for a lot of people, I was like, yeah, but how can you do that? It's like, well, this is a choice that I'm making. Yeah,
exactly.
Like, it's not
a commitment.
Yeah, I don't have to do this. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't have to do it. Yeah. If I wanted to, I could just be like, no, don't fancy it anymore. Yeah.
You won't get to where you want to get to.
Exactly. Exactly. And my need to get and want and my desire to get to where I want to get to is stronger than anything else. Yeah. And I think that's what it takes.
Yeah, it's mad. I don't know. I don't think. I think that's when you first get into anything. If you have a goal there, that's the mindset that you need to have. Yeah, and it's definitely not the mindset of like, oh, now I need to like lift the heaviest weights ever. Especially for me, it was just like, as soon as I hit the goal of being able to live independently, which I've been doing for the last 4 years, not need any assistance, things like a day where you need to have a shower, where you could get really fatigued afterwards, like I don't need any of that. And most of my symptoms are in remission now, but a lot of it has been mental. Like I would say 80-90% of it's been mental, the rest of it's been like physical, kind of figuring it out. The rest of it's make sure that you know what you're doing, and also don't beat yourself up if you've, I don't know, gone on a night out, to make sure you've kept a social life, and then you have a flare afterwards. Why beat yourself up over that? Like, you've chosen to go on that night out. You've probably had a really nice time while you're out there. Yeah. Don't beat yourself up afterwards. Like, just understand that you need to rest and then get back on it. Like,
and I think that is something that like a lot of people, they neglect to accept responsibility for the consequences of the actions that they take. And I think that is just something across all areas of life, and especially with a chronic illness and stuff. It's so important. I think not enough people actually take responsibility from that perspective about their health and about the choices that they make and what they're actually doing to improve their health. And
just reminded me of the pity party that Jack mentioned earlier.
I'm still up for that. Doing it later. We're throwing a pity party.
You throw yourself a pity party. Yeah. Nobody else comes to it apart from you. And then it gets you nowhere, absolutely nowhere. It's a party that never ends. It's exhausting.
It's okay to have a bit of like a bit of a rant. It's just shit. Like sometimes it truly is. It's just shit. But then it's snapping yourself out of that and then being like, right, what can I do to make the best of this situation? What are the next steps moving forwards? And that's the same with my health. Whenever like I'm like, right, my stomach's not great today on prep. Like, you know, this has happened. Like, I didn't sleep well last night. Not feeling the best. Went to today's session. It was a big session. I was like, not much expectation. Yeah. But again, I just took the pressure off. Ended up having a really good session. I just took my time going through it. Completely excessively hydrated, because I knew just off the back of the last night that was necessary, especially in the heat that it's been today. Like, it's just actually just having that action plan rather than just being like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened.
Yeah.
And then just spiraling, doing nothing about it. It is so important to just focus on those actionable next steps.
Yeah.
Because again, like procrastination is something in so many people's the cutest dog ever. Procrastination just makes you feel more stressed. It makes you feel more anxious.
Yeah.
I've done it before where I've woken up after like a terrible night of just my stomach, and I'm like, I actually don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I used to just lie there and cry.
Yeah.
But that only made me feel worse.
And
I can guarantee that.
Yeah, is that you end up wasting your time.
Yeah.
And I think, to be fair, I still do this sometimes. I don't moan about being ill, but I'll throw myself out of a routine. And then when I'm out of the routine, you kind of just, everything in that day just suddenly goes to shit. Like,
yeah. But again, it's okay if that sometimes happens.
Yeah.
But it's calling yourself back out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what, because some people let that happen and then they just don't get back into that routine at all. It doesn't matter whether it's been a day or a week or a month or a year even. Yeah. It's just like, you just need to start.
It's time to get out.
Yeah, you just need to start. And that's what's really important.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Should we end that one there?
Yeah.
So, like, subscribe, please, and let us know if you have any thoughts or questions for anything else that you'd like to see Charlotte and I do. And of course, make sure that you're following both Charlotte and the Chronically Fit group. Do you want to share the Instagrams?
Yeah, my personal one is Chronicle of Charlotte, and the Chronically Fit group is Chronically Fit group. So
nice and easy. There. So yeah, we will see you on the next one.